Do you want to hear some good news? It is completely possible to eliminate money fights. Completely possible. A year from now, you could literally not have had a single money fight over the course of the next 12 months. It's possible. We've seen it. We've lived it. And today we're going to be talking about our two favorite hacks to get you there as it relates to typical money stresses and how you can just entirely eliminate them.
Let's go.
2 hacks. Let's dive in. This is part 2 of a 2-part series all about money. So at the time of recording this, it's October. Looming on the horizon is holiday travel, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, gift giving, lots of feasting, lots of unusual spending, and with it, a lot of money stress. Also, we're getting closer to the new year, and I just love a new year because it's a chance to do things differently. So we're dedicating last episode and this episode to giving you guys some tools to hopefully ease some of the financial tension, right? Money is such a marriage tension point.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. So last week we talked about your money narrative, right? What stories you bring in from childhood, from the way that you saw your parents managing or mismanaging money, and you bring all of that, your beliefs, your expectations, your emotions about money, you bring that into your marriage, and it causes a lot of tension. So if you didn't go and listen to that episode, pause, go back, listen to that. It's a really great episode. I think it's going to create some fantastic conversation around money narratives that are maybe at a root cause of some of the arguments that are recurring in your marriage around the topic of finances. But today, we're going to get a lot more practical.
Yeah, we want to give you 2 tools and 2 strategies or 2 hacks. I love the word hack because it's like a simple thing that can actually have big effects, right? Do this one little thing and you get this big result. So we're going to give you 2 of our favorite money hacks that can help you eliminate, like literally eliminate most of the money fights, if not all of them. So we'll be super practical, and we'll just share what we've been doing these for almost 20 years now. We've been married 19 years in a couple of days.
Yeah.
From now, it's almost our wedding anniversary. 19 years of doing this as a married couple, and it's worked. So
Yeah.
You were about to say something.
Nope. I'm just
seem so
excited.
excited.
I'm just so excited.
She's ready.
I really want to jump into, we divided this into 2 different stressors, right? 2 very common stressors that come up, and then a hack kind of associated with each of those 2 specific things. So the first one is, there's no normal month, right? I've tried budgeting and it doesn't work because something unexpected comes up. A car repair, somebody needs something breaks down, something has to be fixed, and that wasn't in the plan. And so now there's arguments and tension and fear. Maybe there was some lack of planning. So it actually, we're not saying it's made up tension or fear. It really does create tension and fear. How are we going to, these unexpected expenses? I feel like that's oftentimes what I hear as a source of money stresses. Well, we tried to establish a budget, but we had this unexpected expense, and that's just set us back. And the next month is another unexpected expense. The next month is another unexpected expense. And so what I think happens is that people throw out budgeting because they're like, it just doesn't work. It's not practical. It's never neat and tidy. So we want to kind of give you a hack that enables you to work through that, kind of debunk that, or better prepare for it so that that isn't an argument that comes up. There are no unexpected expenses in a way.
Well, and a lot of times it's not unexpected expenses. They're ones you would expect, like Christmas is not unexpected. I don't know if you know this. It comes literally the same day every year. And so it's not that it's unexpected always, because sometimes it is like the car broke down, or I was not expecting that, or like a tree fell on.
Your dog swallowed your kid's toy.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're rushing to the ER for something with your kid. Like, those are real unexpected things. But then there's also just what do we do about paying for gifts for our kids, going to birthday parties for their friends? Like when you make a budget, you usually make it in this fake world of I have rent and I have groceries, and you think about the basic stuff, and you don't think about all the real life stuff that's not unexpected. And it's normal that would come up, but where does it fit? Where does it fit? And all of those are the things that bring up tension. So the simple solution to this is automatic sub-accounts.
Love this. This is one of my favorite things we've ever done with budgeting.
Yeah, and it's so obvious when you think about it, but so are the most powerful hacks. Are simple, but For example, you have money coming in, and you probably have a checking account for a bank account where you get your paychecks or whatever your money comes in. And then you might have a savings account. Okay. And that's like, I know I should be saving money. And so when you have some left over, you throw it in there. And you might even have like a retirement account, like a 401k or an IRA or something like that, where you're like, when I think about it, I'm investing. If you have those things, that's awesome. Like that's better than a lot of people, but that's not enough to handle real life. So the idea is, we don't know what's going to come down the pike, or even the things we do know loosely, spending money on kids' birthday gifts for their friends. We don't know how many birthday parties are they going to go to this year, how many kids are they going to be buying gifts for, how expensive those gifts. We don't know, but we kind of know that they're coming or could potentially come. So what you want to do is to have a budget and actual little sub savings accounts nicknamed for all the potential things that are these extra things, or the things that aren't the same amount you spend every month. So not included in this are like rent. Your rent is usually due every month, and you usually it's pretty set in stone. You might have some debt repayments, like a student loan, and it's probably the same amount every month. You know how to handle those. Car payments. Those are a little bit easier because they're due every month. What about Christmas? It's not due every month, but you want to have money
by the time Christmas comes
to pay for Christmas gifts. Otherwise, you're going to do what most Americans do, which is you don't have money. So you put on your credit card, and by next Christmas, you still haven't paid off last Christmas's credit card bill, and now you got to swipe again. So we could save up in advance for Christmas. We could save up in advance for other gifts, like birthday gifts, for just even within your own house.
Yeah, you're going to have to buy gifts. Over the course of the year, there's going to come a situation where you're going to need to buy a gift, a family's birthday, your kids go to a birthday party, something like that.
You want to get something nice for Valentine's Day. Like I got two daughters. I want to get my daughter something anniversary. Yep. Your car is going to need repairing. Even if it's basic maintenance, you're going to have to, unless we talked about oil changes last episode.
Like, reference our last episode.
I don't change my own oil. I pay for an oil change. Okay, well, I know that's going to come up every 5,000 miles or whatever it is. So like, I'm assuming I'll have money for it, but I don't want to assume. I want to set aside something every month so that it accumulates, so I have money for car repair. I'm just going to give you the examples real quick, and then I'm going to show you how this works.
Also, I can hear everyone saying, well, Graham, that sounds great, but like I don't have money to save for all that kind of stuff. So we got to talk about how that's.
Yeah, we got to give you examples first, and then we'll show you how it works. Medical spending. If you got to go to the doctor,
at some point, you are going to have to go to the doctor, right? Someone's going to get the flu. You're going to have to go to Emergicare. You're going to have to fill a prescription. Blah, 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 blah.
Get a medicine. Exactly.
Or vitamins or whatever it is. However it is you want to treat ailments and sickness. Sure. Like it's going to cost something, right?
Yep. Clothing. This blows my mind that people don't set aside money for clothing. Your clothing, unless it's magical, like the Israelites' sandals in the book of Exodus that didn't wear out for 40 years, your clothes will wear out. Yes. And if they don't wear out, you probably won't like them at some point. So and especially if you have kids, right? They're growing, they're changing. Like you're gonna have to replace shoes, you're gonna have to replace clothing. Where's that money coming from? It's not every month that you got to buy new clothes, but at some point you're gonna need to buy clothes. If you want to take a trip or a vacation, where's that money gonna come from? You don't take a trip every month. It's not a monthly expense that I said I'm always paying this amount on vacations every month. But when you do want to go for a vacation, where's that gonna come from?
Well, and how much do you know? How do you know how much you have to spend on vacation?
And that's what we'll get to in a minute, sort of like how this works. Yep. It answers a lot of these questions. If you want to replace your car one day, cars, just like
eventually
clothes,
you will have to replace your car.
They wear out. If you want to get out of the cycle of financing or even worse, leasing a car, which most of the case is not a good financial move, you have to pay cash for a car, which you actually can. But the only way you could even think about paying cash for a car is if you saved for a car. And the only way to save for a car is to save a little bit each month until you need the car. Now, you may not need a car for another 5 years or 7 years, but where do you think that money's going to come from? And even if you don't take us up on the paying cash for a used car or even a new car if you could afford it, you're still going to want to put something down and you're still going to need some money. So we need to anticipate that's going to come, whether you can ignore it. I got a car right now, sure, but at some point it's going to wear out.
You're going to have to replace it.
House repair or decor. So something's going to break in your house if you own it. And even if you don't own your house, and even if you do, you probably want to do some decor. You might want some new furniture. Where's the money for furniture?
You need to put a bookshelf in your kid's bedroom.
Yeah, like you need new pillow, like throw pillows. You want a new, comforter for your bed. Like your kids want, like, Mom, can I have a little shelf? Can I have? It's all random stuff for your house. Where's that money going to come from?
Yeah.
Insurance premiums. Some insurance premiums, right? You only pay every 6 months or every year, and you might have a monthly option, but sometimes you don't. It's like every 6 months, and people are like, oh gosh, I got to pay the auto bill, and it's every 6 months. It shouldn't be a surprise. It comes every 6 months, so you need to set something aside if you can't move it to monthly.
Yeah.
And then some taxes I put for some people, if you don't have escrow for your home or certain taxes, or if you're in self-employed, no one's taking your tax money every month, but it's due every quarter or at the end of the year, depending on your situation. So you got to set aside money for taxes. So these are just to give you some examples of this is not to stress you out, but think about all the random things that aren't typically monthly.
Right. They are coming.
So the only way to pay for them is to have in advance prepared for them. And we know you don't have time for that. And we know that you don't want to think about that. So the solution to most of our money problems when it comes to these kinds of things is to automate it. And so this is where most budgets go wrong, is that they don't account for these things. Or they say, well, we should have some money for these things, but they don't know what to do with it. So what we're suggesting is that you make an accurate budget that's going to have on one side all the things you would spend money on in a given year. Okay? So that's why I gave you some examples. Oh yeah, Christmas. Oh yeah, car repair, replacing a car. Don't worry about where's the money going to come from or how much. Just you have to face the music. At some point, you're going to be paying for these things. So at least write down all the things you could think about. And then obviously the ones that are every month, you're going to know those amounts. And if you can change them, lower them, great. But if you can't, they are what they are. The other ones are up for grabs, and you have two options. Either it's like a car replacement, and you think about, well, what kind of car do we want to have in 5 years or whatever, and how much does that cost? And if I could divide that by 12
Or however
and
many
ever
years,
many years
or whatever.
5 times 12, so I got 60 months. So that amount divided by 60, could I set aside that amount each month so that in theory in 5 years I have enough to pay cash for the car? You could either do it based off of a certain amount, or what honestly we do a lot of times is like, how much is left in the budget? It might be $500 a month or $600 a month. How can we divide it up among these
things?
things? And the goal here is simple, and then I want to get your take on sort of this, is just put something away in all of these categories, automate it so it goes into these sub-accounts. So you have said, I want to set aside $50 a month for kids' clothing. And what you're doing is saying that out loud, you're writing it down on paper, but then you're doing the work once by saying, bank account, I want you to transfer $50 every month into my clothing sub-account. That's called clothing, and I'll show you where to do that in a minute. But that way, I've made the decision once.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. And then 6 months later, I wake up and I'm like, oh, the kids need some clothes. Do we have any money for the kids' clothing? And we look into our little sub-account that says clothing, and it says, you have $300. Where did that come from? $50 a month, automatically being set aside for 6 months. I didn't need any clothing for the kids, but now 6 months later, I can see, oh, we have money for the kids' clothing. And to Shay, your point was, now I know how much I can spend.
Right.
Or that's the ceiling, is up to $300. And so that's going to help us when we go to the store. Nope, can't get that, can't get that, because we actually have a budget, but we can actually take care of it.
Yeah, and the thing that I would just underscore there is that don't let the feeling that, well, we don't have a lot of money to put into these accounts stop you from doing it entirely. Because again, the reality is these expenses are coming at some point. So you can ignore them by not setting aside money for them, but that's not going to change the fact that they're coming. And when they come, some of them that are variable, like travel or clothing or gifts, you're really not going to know how much you have to spend. So you're just going to do it based off of what you want to do or what you hope or, what feels right. So my encouragement to you is don't get caught up on how much goes into each of these accounts. I wish I had our original budget. I should have grabbed it from downstairs because we could show you how tiny the amounts were that were going into a lot of these budgets.
Some as low as $10 a month.
Some as low as $10 a month going into accounts like this because that was all that we had, right? We were living off of a budget of just under $2,000 a month total. And so we're talking tiny amounts of money at some points of time. We're going into these, but the point was that we had committed to be allocating a little bit each month for that. and earmarking it, and it was moving over automatically so that month after month when we didn't need it, it was in there, and then when we did need it, it was there, and it provided parameters for us. Like, okay, birthday's coming. Well, we only have $20 in the gift fund. And so I'm going to have to make something and we'll get a little something, or we have to split this in these ways. And so here's our game plan so that we don't go into debt or that kind of thing. So this has just been, I think, one of the most practical, most helpful. It's a mind shift and it's a discipline, just to say that, oh, these things are coming. I'm just going to go ahead and plan for them in advance. I'm going to go ahead and peel off small amounts of money for each of these things all year long in an automated way so that when they come, I don't have to stress and I know where the ceiling is on what we can actually spend on it.
Exactly. So the beautiful thing is it only takes the decision once, and you and your spouse sit down and say, hey, okay, here's the reality. We've got like this amount of money left in our budget after rent and all these other things. Let's put some, and you're going to zhuzh around. You're like, okay, well, let's put more in this account, travel versus, okay, this. You decide together once. You just decide once, and you want to revisit this every year, or if you get a pay raise or a pay cut. Like when I lost my job and we were unemployed for a couple of years, or I was starting a business, like we kept all the sub accounts and kept the categories. Just the amounts got incredibly low, like down to again $10 for some accounts. But you make the decision once, and it requires no discipline because it's happening automatically for you every time you get paid. It's moving over, so you don't have to be a budgeter. You don't have to check it every month, but like it's happening for you. But imagine this: imagine it's Christmas time next year, and it's like November, and you're like, oh my gosh, Christmas is coming. How are we going to pay for gifts, a tree, or whatever? And then you open up your account, and you see in your Christmas fund you have $1,000. Now that may not sound like a lot of money, but that might sound like a lot of money depending where you're at. And you're like, oh, we have $1,000. So, and maybe you have a couple of kids. Like, well, we can spend $200 on this kid and $200 on this kid and a couple $100
Split this on
you.
families. We can decide what we're going to do for each other. Can we decorate the house or not?
Yeah, it tells you how much to spend on debt. But like, imagine waking up and knowing you have $1,000 cash for Christmas. That's like you're not borrowing from anything else or putting on the credit card. You have it. Well, where are you going to come up with an extra $1,000 tomorrow? You didn't, because you put $83 a month automatically all year long pulled into that account, so you didn't have to think about it. And it just felt like only $83. Like you spend that at Chipotle if you got the extra guac. But by the end of the year, you have $1,000 set aside for Christmas or whatever the amount is. That's the amazing piece. To Shay's point in our previous episode when we had our first like car repair bill, and she was like, "Gosh, where's this extra $300 going to come from?" We'd been setting aside like $30 for like 10 months, and all of a sudden, oh, we've got $300 that we can spend to do something that nobody wants to spend money on, fixing the AC in the car, but we have it.
And there was something about it being specifically earmarked for that purpose that does change the way you think about those expenses, because a lot of times what I'll hear is a lot of like anger and resentment around this unexpected expense. But the reality is it really, you didn't know when it was going to happen, but you knew at some point it was going to happen. So I think the fact even that you decided in your mind, like eventually I'm going to have to put money toward my car or towards a home repair. And so I've moved it over into an account that says home repair, that now when that home repair expense comes up, it's not like anger and frustration. I don't want to spend money on that. I want to be spending money on this. Like, oh, this is so frustrating.
Spend it on a trip or something.
Right. Which we all get that. Like, right? That's the reality.
That's more
for
fun
all of
than
us.
a car repair. Or
but
home repair.
the fact that it's already been earmarked it and moved it over for that, it just kind of takes the edge off of like, man, I have to put $400 into getting our air conditioner
so
fixed.
good. It changes the story.
It does.
It almost feels
It
like,
does.
hey, someone set aside extra money for us to pay for our car. It was you. You're past you. But the fact that it's labeled. And so the way we do this, and this is a big piece of it, we like to use Capital One 360 because, and you can do this no matter what your main primary bank is. So I think, it doesn't matter because it's literally a savings account that can attach to your checking account. So whether you have a credit union or a bank, local, big, doesn't matter. Capital One 360 does this really well, and some other ones I think have followed suit. But what they do is they have high yield savings accounts, which you get more interest, no minimums, which I love. But the magic of their system is that you create one account, And once you're logged in, you can open up unlimited savings accounts under that login. And then you can nickname them whatever.
Like kids extracurricular. We should add that to our list because that's coming.
Yeah. Like if you have a sports fee for something coming up, you can have unlimited of these accounts and you can nickname them whatever you want. And then you can automate from your same one checking account, pull $10 into this every month, $100 into this every month. And that's the tool that we're using. It's free. There's no minimums because a lot of these savings accounts have minimums. Like you got to keep at least $300 in there. It doesn't work because some of these things are going to be small and they're going to be emptied. Like you're going to be building up clothing money and then emptying it.
Yep.
And then building back up, emptying it. So we want something with no fees, no minimums, unlimited accounts can be opened under the one login. So you're not like multiple banks. It's crazy, but it's one place. You have an app and I can see, oh, here's how much we can spend on travel. So those numbers have gotten bigger for us as we have more income. We can set aside more for travel and we value travel. So we put aside a lot more every month. But now when it's like, oh, I want to go to Puerto Rico and celebrate the Rebel, the book came out, or we want to go to Europe, or we want to go see family for a wedding. How much can we spend on flights and hotels? Because I can see, well, we've got this amount set aside, and that's the beauty of it.
Same thing for like, even things like going out to eat. Like, can we afford to go to a steakhouse and we're gonna, get appetizers, or are we, like we said last time, like splitting the number 4 special
At El Charo's.
At El Charo's. Like, your budget will tell you that. So that takes all the guesswork out. Now, do you want to talk about kind of the role, or I would say kind of like the step 1 to this would be in my mind, the emergency fund, like setting up and stocking an emergency fund so that you sort of have that buffer.
I mean, I think
because at first, $20 in your car repair fund is not going to cover the car repair. So do you think it's worth definitely filling an emergency fund and then doing this?
I feel it's a separate conversation, but like I do think it's wise to have a fund set aside just for like break glass in case of emergency, something that you couldn't anticipate. Car repairs you can anticipate, but if you don't have a lot of money set aside, when something breaks unexpectedly, that becomes an emergency for you. These days, it's not an emergency for us. It's just like an inconvenience. But I'm a big fan of like, do whatever you got to do to get $1,000 in an account right now. Like you could sell some crap.
Separate it out of your regular checking or.
It could be one of your sub accounts, but it's called emergency fund. So like by this weekend, you could have $1,000 by selling some stuff in your house. Get on Facebook Marketplace. Like, don't even think about earning the $1,000. Think about what could I sell or get rid of to make $1,000.
That's great.
That's a good challenge. Then get $1,000 in there. Eventually, you want to have that to be multiple months of your expenses, not your income.
But I'm just talking about that first like $1,000.
I would get that. Really, like that's and to me that's like not like a we'll set aside $10 and eventually get up. No, just go get it next week by selling some crap. It'll feel good. Or like donating some plasma. Or doing something like, oh, how could I get $1,000 if I'm Will Richards, Shay's brother. Anyway, but
those were dark days.
Those were dark days. And he did it. He did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do.
Will, you did what you had to do, bro.
He did.
And
He's got the scars.
Now you're winning. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, that's one of our sub accounts is emergency, and we've eventually gotten it to like I think 6 months of our expenses, and we try to keep that as a bare minimum. It'd be awesome to get a year's worth of expenses in that account.
Now you're just gonna start freaking people out.
Yeah, but you brought it up. You brought it up. To me, that's a separate conversation.
Think that like $1,000 emergency fund, I feel like, especially when you're first starting out, I feel like that's really, really helpful until you can get a little bit of money in these accounts.
Yeah,
but. Love, love, love this hack. We've done it since day one.
Yeah, almost 20 years
still
now.
do it. We've done it at literally every different from when we were making $500 a month to $2,000 a month. True story. To all the years in between. So it has worked for us at every level because it's really just based on sort of percentages that you want to allocate or however you want to approach it. It just removes the stress. Yeah. It is a decision-making filter. Like, how much can we afford to spend on vacation? How much can we afford to spend on Christmas? How much can we afford to spend on our anniversary? How much can we afford to spend on kids' sports? Can we afford for them to do 2 sports per kid, or are they going to have to pick one? Like, can they afford Nikes for back to school shoes, or does it need to be, Walmart specials, which is what I grew up wearing?
And it's sad that we have to bring that up, but like depending on your money story or where you're at with money, like you may not have ever thought about this. Like a lot of people just buy what they think they deserve, or what they just want, and then they try to figure it out later. And that's why we're in debt, and that's why we're stressed. So if you don't like how that feels, this is the alternative, which is you, as Dave Ramsey says, you act your wage instead of act your age. Like act your wage. Like you have a wage, you have an income level. It is what it is. So your job is to be responsible and say, well, that's how much we make. Yeah. So then this is a tool to eliminate some of the fighting and the stress around it, because it's a habit that works at big incomes, low incomes, middle incomes. It doesn't matter. Yeah. All of us have to deal with these expenses, and it's a way to prepare for them in advance automatically.
And the only other thing I'll add, and then we can move on, is just I do like there's something about making decisions that you're in agreement on around things like Christmas spending. You know, we keep bringing up that one, but you know, how much is a good amount to spend on Christmas? Only the two of you can decide that together. Is $2,000 reasonable to spend on Christmas? Is $500 what you can afford to spend on Christmas? Is $10,000 what you can afford to spend on Christmas? The point is, when you approach it this way, you're having to make that decision together, not at Christmas time, right? So like ideally in January, you're saying, what feels like a reasonable amount of money for us to spend total on Christmas? Think about all the expenses, not just gifts for your kids, but buying a Christmas tree. Do you need decorations? Are you going to go do any kind of Christmas related activities that are going to cost any money? Are you going to want to give teacher gifts? Okay. Like that's another teacher gifts that comes up every year. Like, what are you going to do for that? So you decide in advance, I think together, this is a reasonable amount of money for us to spend on XYZ. And then that eliminates any kind of resentment of like, why don't you want to do what I want to do as it relates to Christmas? Or you're being stingy when we're in the checkout line at Target. Like that's not the time to be deciding how much is a good amount to spend on Christmas gifts. You want to have decided in advance, and then you've divided it by 12. And that's how much you're setting aside. And then come Christmas, there's just no arguments. You sit down together, you divide up how's that going to be allocated. Anyway, we already hit on that, but I just think there's something about making that decision together in advance that eliminates a lot of arguments.
Love it. So stress number 2, this one will be quick and to the point, is disagreements over how money is spent individually.
Don't tell me how to spend my money.
The spouse can feel judged or restricted. Like, I feel like this budget's just restricting me. Or it can come up with like, really, baby, you went and got your nails done again? You know, like,
gosh, Graham.
Yeah.
How many sports pedicures do you need?
Let me be me.
Just kidding. You've never actually done that.
But think about, like, it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
And it's either spoken or it's not spoken, but it's felt, and the resentment of like, why does he spend that on that? Or I can't believe he went out with his buddies again and had a cigar at the cigar lounge. Like, how much did the cigar cost? Does he really need that? Like, money's tight right now.
Or like, it's a difference in values, right? Like,
of course.
I don't love spending money on movie tickets. I'm like, I'll just wait till it comes out. You love going to the movies, so you don't want me judging you that feels like a valid way of spending money. Is like, you love movies, is worth every dollar of that $35 or whatever you spend to go to the movies. And same for me. I mean, it'd be easy for you to be like, how much does that night cream cost you? Like, how you needed another pair of neutral shoes? Really? Like, how many white sneakers does a girl need, Shay? And the reality is that we all have judgments about that, and that can be the source of a lot of fights, especially if money is tight. If I find out that you went to Starbucks again, or you find out that I whatever again, that can cause a lot of money tension. So what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, and it's not just that. It's just even in general. Let's say you're both aligned on, and you love the same things, and you both literally are robot copies of each other. You can still feel restricted by a budget. Yeah. And it's just like counting calories. Like, okay, how long is this going to work until you like get sick and tired of it, and you just go on a binge fest and you eat nothing but, blueberry donuts for a week. So the problem
is that a confession or an example?
We have to talk about this afterwards. So the problem is just restriction never feels good, and so you're going to rebel and revolt in a negative way. So what we want to do is make sure that you release that pressure valve where there's some judgment-free spending and where there's some freedom to like enjoy yourself at every income level. And so
in whatever way you value that your spouse may not
So
value.
the greatest thing we ever heard, and we stole this from Dave Ramsey because when he explained this, like, this makes way too much sense to not do. We've done it since day one, is to have what we call individual fun money. Dave Ramsey calls it blow money because you can just blow it on whatever you want. But it's kind of like allocated money in the budget where I'm not going to judge you on how you spend it. We said no questions asked, and then we're like, well,
that sounds a little
if I go to the strip club,
sketchy.
you should be asking questions.
There should be questions
There should be questions asked. But the idea is like, hey,
You can spend it on what you spend your fun money on whatever you want to, and I'm not going to ask any. We will ask questions if we're going to ask questions. We're not being.
those are
weird,
other
but,
problems, but
you know, I'm not going to judge. You're allowed to spend that money however you want. You can spend it at McDonald's for all I care. Spend it however you want. Same thing for me. I'm going to have a little pot of money that we will have decided on, and I can spend that on shoes or on getting my nails done or any number of things that you don't value, and you're not going to judge it because that's Shay's fun money.
This will
It's already
change
incorporated.
your
I know.
life.
It really will.
And it's so simple for two reasons. One, it works within your budget because you've predetermined every month you and I are going to get $50 or $10.
I remember it was $15 at its lowest. I think I remember maybe $10 to $15.
I think it was 10. And this is a good lesson. When we were on food stamps and like I was starting my business and lost my job, we did not eliminate fun money. We just
Correct.
reduced it down to something stupid like $10 a month, which means we weren't able to do much fun. But if I could still go to Starbucks or go somewhere and get whatever I wanted, and because it's the feeling that you get of like, I can spend money, which makes you feel wealthy. It makes you feel in control. If you cut
You're working
all spending,
hard,
you are.
right? You
And
want
if
to
you
be able to enjoy it a little bit.
if you cut all spending, it kills your soul. And some people are better at not spending than others and have the discipline, and that's fine. But and I'm like me, like I'm not much of a spender usually. Like I love to save, but at some point you start to resent your whole situation. So if you're in a tight spot, this is incredibly important for you to have fun money, blow money, even if it's $10 a month each, because it just unlocks a feeling that's infinitely more than the amount you're spending of just like, hey man, even if it's $10, I can spend this on whatever I want.
And it puts a cap on what is inevitably going to happen, which is one day you're going to get fed up. You're like, I've been working so hard. I'm working 2 jobs and we just never have money to spend on things. And I'm just going to, that one time at Target, just buy what I want and swipe and hope for the best. It kind of eliminates that because it's like, well, I do have money to release that pressure, that has built up from trying to be so disciplined and saying no to so many things. But it does put a cap on it, on your, Target haul. Puts a cap on it.
Yep.
And what the other thing that's great is that if you're not a big spender on small things, it can accumulate.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a good
all of a
point.
sudden you have that used to happen with us with clothing money,
Yeah.
which was one of our line items, and that was separate from fun money.
Yep.
Is we allocated a little bit for clothing money, and yours would pile up all year, and then you'd spend it kind of in one shopping trip, and mine was like spent the moment that it hit my account, like as it was transferring, it was gone,
Yeah.
But that kind of eliminates any kind of tension there. So I just love this. Don't get hung up over how much it is. Just decide together. Like we said, at our lowest, it was probably $15 per person per month. And that money you get, whether it's in cash. I mean, I think cash is a smart way of doing
it's
that.
a good little bonus hack there. Is that like you can't overspend
Yeah,
it.
you're gonna stick to your budget. But love that. And I love the opportunity to have guilt-free spending.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, guilt-free spending. And I think with these two money hacks, the beauty of it is that you have to come together and make a decision once together. So it's forcing unity and collaboration and like, hey, we get to decide in this season, given how much we make or don't make, what does this look like? But you make that decision once, and then it's not a continual fight.
Yeah.
So it's like you can get the tension out that first time, but then also knowing that like someone in the family or someone in the couple is going to feel like, I just want to know that we're going to be taken care of. Like, I just want to know that if our kid has to go to the ER, that we're going to have money for that.
Yeah.
And so that person will feel cared for and safe having the sub accounts and knowing that you're automatically saving something.
Another interesting application of this is with generosity, because we know more than one couple who one person is maybe really has a heart for giving, and it can stress the other person out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good example.
And it creates a weird tension because, of course, I don't want to tell you to
Don't be
not be
generous.
generous
Yeah.
because I don't want to be the stingy one, but also it's stressing me out how, you paid for that person's meal or you did that thing or
that's
you
good.
gave that thing. So I'm feeling unsure about our financial situation because of your generosity. That can create tension in a few different marriages that we know. So having a line item for generosity,
Which is one of ours, undesignated giving. Like we have
giving.
tithing and we have giving that we give to certain
Organizations,
nonprofits.
yeah.
But we have a separate category called undesignated. Like it just piles up, and then when we see a need, we can go meet that need.
So we've both agreed this is what we can afford to be generous with. And now how that generosity plays out, there's a lot of freedom there, but it's not going to cause anxiety for the person who's maybe not the one doing that generosity spending. And it creates parameters that are intentional for the person who really does have a heart for generosity and wants to be able to do the thing, take the person out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Makes sense, right? So sub accounts, check out Capital One 360, or maybe your bank can do this as well. It's free, so it doesn't cost you anything. And then the fund money. And so the decision is just sit down and decide how much in these categories. And the cool thing is, like, if it's not the right amount, just change it next month.
Change it next month.
Just do it just by setting up the sub accounts and setting up the fund money.
Yep.
Man, you are building a habit and you're making it normative so that and I'll tell the last story here was just that Shay and I did this when we were both employed. We weren't making great money, but we each made $30,000 a year. So we were fine, no kids. And so we set these things up, had no idea that 3 years later, we were going to move to Florida. I was going to lose 2 jobs and we'd be on food stamps. We'd have $500 a month coming in. And what was beautiful is we already had sub accounts and fund money and the habit, and that was normative. So we were like, oh, well, the sad thing is all the numbers went way, way down. But the great news was we were already used to setting things aside in the habit. And so what I started to think about was this is sad and hard now, but I can't wait for when the business works or I get another job, whatever happens, when the income comes back up, I know that these accounts are
I
going to...
know exactly where it's going to go.
It's pre-spent money. It's like pre-spent in your mind.
And that has helped us at all different stages of income. So now that we have more money, we know how to use it. We know how to allocate it. You know, and we've learned over time, like how to be realistic about how much needs to go into each of these accounts, et cetera.
Yep. So
do it, people,
do it.
please. Oh, this is just so life-changing if you just will do it.
Yes. So hopefully these 2 episodes have been helpful with you with your money journey. Let us know if you want more episodes on money, if you have specific questions on marriage, family, money. Like that's one of our pillars here on the show, so we're happy to talk about it as well. And we like to end the show, as always, with gratitude.
A moment of gratitude.
And now, I feel like a gong should go off
And now,
or some sound
our
bowls.
moment of gratitude.
What
Our
is it?
gratitude practice.
What is something you're grateful for?
Can you go first?
Yes.
You made me go first last time.
I am grateful for something that Chloe and I started, and maybe we can do an episode on this, called Daddy Daughter Book Club.
Yeah.
And she's been doing virtual school this year. She wanted to change it up. And so she's been at home. And so on Thursdays, she and I do lunch together. Specifically, we're going through books together. We're each reading a chapter of a book together. Both have a copy of the book. Right now, we're doing John Gordon's The One Truth, which is a really great mindset book. So we're reading a chapter a week, which is really easy. It's a short book. And we come together, have lunch, and we just talk about the book. What did you like? What did you underline? What are your insights? It's been so fun and so cool to hear what she's learning, what I'm learning. It's been a cool bonding experience. I'm grateful. I just had that yesterday with her.
Yeah,
Super fun.
that's good. I love that. It's just the cutest thing to see you guys do that. It's inspiring. I'm going to read probably more because of it.
I'm going to read books now too.
I feel like that was so non-committal.
Yeah, probably, maybe.
I'm going to maybe read more because I see you reading.
Keep your options
Anyway.
open.
I am really grateful for our friends. I just think we are in a season right now where we are surrounded with such incredible people that are inspiring and kind and generous and just the types of people that you want to be around, that you want to be sharpened by. They're just full of joy. They're talented. Like it's just really cool. It's really cool. The people that we get to call friends, I feel like in this season, it's just really sweet. I'm really grateful in particular for a friend that just set aside some time to spend about an hour of time like coaching Chloe around a particular topic that's been a struggle for her. And I'm just like, she's not the only amazing friend
Yeah.
we have. We have like just a really beautiful community of amazing people around us right now. And it's just such a gift.
I agree. Well, hopefully you enjoyed hanging out with us. We're grateful you listened and watched today. Have an amazing week, and do these things. Do these money tools. They'll help you out. Promise. We'll see you on another episode real soon.